Hey, this is Abbiz with the Spuff of Legend. We just got a very exciting Christmas update from Overkill yesterday that I wanted to talk about because there were a lot of different elements to it that really stimulated my curiosity in particular. But before we get there, I do want to apologize for the quality of the footage. I know it's a little more choppy than you're probably used to from this channel. It was recorded on my travel laptop. I am traveling right now. And there was a bug where you could unlock the Copycat perk deck without waiting for the community milestones, which we are nowhere near close to unlocking. So I recorded a little bit of footage with it just in case, which turned out to be important because you can't do that anymore. So this is all I have for footage involving the Copycat perk deck, and I apologize also for Bane yabbering away in the background. I made sure the button was checked to prevent the contractor from jabbering away, but he still does it, so I don't know if they broke that or something. Anyway, let's get on with what actually is important about this Christmas event, because there are several big updates to talk about. It came with a new mod pack. I thought it was a very good mod pack. It's just, I mean, a lot of people don't get terribly excited about mod packs because it's just a bunch of gun attachments, but these were for sniper rifles, which I think had been requiring some love for a while now. Most notably, a ton of iron sights for a lot of different sniper rifles. Most of my favorite sniper rifles were the ones that I could apply irons to because I just prefer sniping with irons. So I'm very excited for that. I think they've been doing a good job coming up with new ways to make the attachments unique, such as the one that broadcasts enemy health. I will be honest that I tried you can see it in this footage. It's a little hard to read. It's very small. And there's also not a lot of situations where you want to know the enemy health. Like, the only ones I can think of is if you're fighting like the Commissar, but Payday is such a crazy twitch shooter with your gun flying everywhere that, and I don't know, I'm just like trying to move around and not get hit by the enemy more than I am trying to stay still long enough to actually read the 6 pixels indicating how much health they have. But I do appreciate the attempt, and we can only get better as they tweak, refine, and add more mods with different visuals. Maybe they just haven't added the mod that does that looks visually the way I want it to look. Speaking of new things added to the game, the Lone Star is the new secondary sniper rifle. We already had one of those in the McShay weapon pack. It was called the Pronghorn. Gonna be honest, I think the Pronghorn is better in almost every way. It can actually reach 100 accuracy. It hits better damage breakpoints. And the Lone Star is so bloody inaccurate. I had a very hard time hitting anything. It didn't feel like a sniper rifle to me. It felt more like the 5.7 pistol with good ammo pickup. So that's good, and I'm glad they added it because free players have a free sniper rifle now, which I think they deserve to have. But I'm not terribly impressed with the sniper rifle as it is. I don't know if it's going to get buffed later, but I had to play a lot of the darn thing, unlocking all of the side jobs, the event side jobs. Speaking of which, the Christmas event is going on right now. I played a lot of it. I enjoy a lot of elements of it. I'm not sure it's as fun as maybe the anniversary event that we just have. I find these presents to be a little grindy. I wish they didn't slow you down quite so much when you picked them up, as you're going to be picking them up for the majority of the heist. I do appreciate that you can fling them into a grinder if you don't want to have to carry them halfway across the map to Vlad's nephew, brother's sleigh. But in general, I'm finding this one to be a little more grindy than usual, and you can see that when you look at the community milestones. As of today, we haven't even made it to the 3rd rank, where we need to make it all the way to the 4th to even unlock the Copycat perk deck. I enjoy the snowdozer just because he's challenging. There's not a lot of challenging enemies in this game. We pretty much just blow through them like a hot knife through butter. So a bulldozer with some meat on his bones, who actually has a debuff. He slows you when you get hit by his snow spray. He's legitimately terrifying, and I actually do get scared when I'm pseudo-stun-locked by a snowdozer, because I'm like, oh, bloody hell, I don't know what I'm supposed to do to get out of this except just really open up on the guy. Probably using the snowballs, which are back. They're probably the most overpowered grenade this game has ever seen, but by golly, are they fun. I suppose I forgot to mention the adhesive grenades, which are also added on this update. I like the adhesive grenades because I believe they add a couple more mechanical playstyle concepts for like speedrunners, essentially. I don't think they're very useful for just normal people playing through Payday, because a grenade stuck to a wall and a grenade on the floor are pretty much identical in function, so they're pretty much only useful for people who need precision, and that just makes me think of speedrunners. So I think that we're going to be seeing some cool speedrun strats from the adhesive grenades. Everybody else, I don't really think there's any reason to get too excited. Speaking of that perk deck, that they added. It is absolutely nuts. Like, oh dear lord, you can. It's not like any perk deck they've added before. You can shuffle around what buffs you get from it, things like dodge and armor and health, and the final card in the perk deck lets you essentially replicate the final effect of any other perk deck in the game, leading to a very versatile, customizable, pseudo-chameleon playstyle where you can really customize it however you want. I didn't ever think they were going to add something like that, and it's pretty crazy to try and play with it. This footage, I have everything spec'd out for health. It was not the most genius. I just wanted to give it a go. I would have played more with it if Overkill hadn't patched it out so quickly. But I think this is going to revolutionize the meta, and I think people are going to discover all sorts of broken builds with the Copycat perk deck. I don't think Overkill particularly minds that much. Payday 2 is pretty squarely in the let's just mess around and add content phase. They're very clearly putting all their eggs into Payday 3 to try and make that a well-balanced shooter, where they have just completely given up on me keeping Payday 2 balanced, which is fair. It's not supposed to be balanced. We are supposed to be 4 overpowered juggernauts blowing through a bunch of unrealistic cops. But one thing that I do find interesting about this perk deck is its existence and the fact that they even did this, because I don't really see anyone just throwing out the Copycat perk deck on a whim. They had to completely revamp the entire perk deck's UI to make it possible to edit this perk deck in the way they did. And it's a lot of work for essentially a free perk deck, which makes me think that it is either a beta or reused, it's kind of the opposite of reused because it hasn't come out yet, but design concepts for Payday 3. I think there's a really good chance that they're reworking how perk decks, if they're even called that, are going to work in Payday 3, and I think that the Copycat perk deck might be a little clue into how they are thinking of taking perk deck and kind of skill tree concepts with the whole mixing and matching. Kind of makes me think of how the cards work in Back 4 Blood, right? Where you find these cards on the ground and you can put them together to create your own playstyle out of the cards you like the most. Now, I don't know if they're going to go that far, but the Copycat perk deck would be a really good way for them to test a system like that using the pre-existing cards in Payday 2 and see whether they want to go that route in Payday 3 or if they want to balance that route so we get something like that in Payday 3. That's what I think they're doing with the Copycat perk deck. Speaking of the future, there was also a developer update that came out where they hinted at future campaigns after Texas Heat. Now they didn't commit. They just said we're not going to say yes or no to that, which is probably a fair call. They don't know how long. They probably think they know how long Payday 3 is going to take, but they're covering their ground in case they need to create more Payday 2 content to keep the hype mill milling around while Payday 3 comes out. But it's a good sign, because I was wondering that myself. Is Texas Heat the end? I don't know. I was a little worried, but I've been worried every time. I thought Mexico was going to be the end, and then I thought the Zhufeng heists were going to be the end, and they just keep coming out with new campaigns, and I really like how the new campaigns are so visually stimulating in all these exciting new exotic locales. And in general, they've just gotten so good at adding an aesthetic flavor to separate. The Texas heists don't feel like any other heists visually. And so they've gotten really good at that. So I look forward to seeing where they take us next. They could take us bloody anywhere. Just turn on a random episode of Carmen Sandiego and be like, that locale. We're going to Rome, boys. Whatever it is, I think that's going to be very exciting. So those are just some things I wanted to talk about. I know I haven't uploaded a video in ages, and I apologize for that. So this is something, a little apology for that. There will be another Payday video coming out soon. It's going to be one of your standard 2-minute Payday guides. But in general, I appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel, and I appreciate Overkill for continuing to update Payday 2 much longer after any of us thought they were going to be able to. So before this video gets much longer, I hope you all have a wonderful winter event, happy heisting, and keep those helmets flying. This is Abacus with the Spuff of Legend.